We do have a quorum. We have a quorum now. So we could get started with, in a circle, introductions. We could get started with introductions.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending today's operations meeting. If you are here in the room and if you have not done so already, we have our sign-in sheets for the members and for any guests visiting here. So before you leave, at least, just please make sure you do that. And we'll take it away.
All right, so we'll start with welcomes and introductions. I'm Will Hiller, AMR Operations.
Teresa Rios, CMS Agency.
I'm Spencer Arnett. I'm the paramedic field rep.
Jeff Warden with CalStar, representing your ambulance.
Philip Brown, Base Hospital, representing CHOP.
Justin Reyes, Monterey County Regional Fire, but representing fire-based ambulance.
Michael DeLeo, CAL FIRE, EMS coordinator.
Blake Anderson with the EMS agency.
Deborah Hopkins with EMS Agency.
Kimberly Hernandez, EMS Agency.
Karina Moreno, EMS Agency.
Jesse Allard with EMS Agency.
Steve Brooks, EMS Agency.
Hope Law, Deputy Fire Chief, CSED Fire Department.
Angie Lopez, AMR Communications.
Steve McGavitt with the CHPR ops and pastoral.
Doug Weedus, CHPR Ops.
All right. And thank you. And then we do have some people online as well. So I'll let them introduce themselves. I think really one person.
Olivia Madrigal, 911 Monterey County, and my apologies for not being there in person.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. And just to let you know, because you being online at this point, we cannot have you vote at this time to do anything, but you still able to attend, obviously. So.
Okay.
All right, so we'll go to item 2, public comment. Any member of the public may address the committee for a period not to exceed 3 minutes on any issue not on the committee's agenda. The committee will listen to all communications but may not take action. Do you have any public comment? All right, we can move on to 3, approval of past ops meeting minutes. And would we make this a single?
We can make that a single vote. Yeah, the minutes from January 24th and February 8th will need approval. Obviously, it's been a while since we've had a meeting. So anyone who would like to make a motion to approve these minutes, you can take a moment to look at them, but eventually we'll just need a motion. Yeah.
I'll motion to approve the minutes agenda. I'm sorry, agenda item 3, A through B, A and B.
Second.
All right. So Will Hiller motions and second by Chief Reyes. All right.
Item 4 is correspondence. There's no correspondence to review. Move on to item 5, EMS agency reports.
Oh, thank you. Attached in your packets is a EMS director's report. We've discussed these items at the previous meetings, and I'm looking around and I see that everybody was here for those. I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
And on to old business. For item 6, ops subcommittee bylaws policy 1020 cleanup.
Yeah, that's mine, and I think everybody's heard the spiel once or twice already today. So essentially, the same thing applies to this committee. This committee is currently a standing subcommittee of the EMCC. We would be looking to remove this committee as a standing subcommittee, as well as MAC and the QI committees, as we discussed earlier, and sort of reconstitute it as the operations working group that would advise the EMS agency director, and then reports, rather than the meeting minutes from this committee going to EMCC as they currently do. A report from the EMS director and EMS medical director would go to EMCC to kind of keep them apprised of what's going on within the ops working group. So There is a memo on discussing the proposed changes within your committee packet. And there is also a copy of the changes to policy 1020 that would go into place if this was to, if we were to move forward with these modifications. So we'll just open it up to any questions that anybody may have that they might not have gotten a chance to ask earlier.
So Deborah, is this just in discussion now, or is there a definitive time frame in moving this forward, or do we need to make a motion? What's the next step?
So discussion today, and then we would bring it back. We knew nobody's had a chance really to look at the bylaws or the new policy before this agenda packet came out. So we're giving it to you today to take a look at, give a chance to review it, and then we would come back in September and look for a movement on changes. So we want to give people a chance to discuss.
I think it's a good idea. I can endorse it. I think that it would promote efficiency and greater participation and flexibility for this particular forum and this meeting. So if anybody else has any other opinion on it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Deborah.
Right, moving on to new business, item A, officer elections, Blake.
All right, yeah, so as the policies that currently state, officer elections begin in July. Since we were unable to hold our March and April ops meetings, we will go ahead and run elections for chair and vice chair at this time. And we will start off with chair, and if we'll start off by first taking any nominations for the chair position. Anyone on the committee want to make a nomination?
I'll nominate Will Hiller to continue as chair.
We have a second on that?
Second.
All right, well, we'll take it to a vote. Chief Reyes?
Aye.
And then Bill Hiller?
All abstain.
Abstain, okay. Spencer?
Aye.
And then Jeff?
Aye.
All right, and then motion carries that, well, you will do a 1.5 term, I think now. Since he's- sorry.
1.5.
Yeah, all right, so, and now we'll take nominations for vice chair. Anyone want to make a nomination?
I'm sorry, I have a question. Do they have to be present?
We'll surprise them at
No.
the next.
Teach
See what happens when you show up for the
Nope.
meeting.
Nope, yeah, so any from currently Spencer, we have Spencer, we have Tina Nieto, Olivia Madrigal, Justin Reyes, Jeff Horner, Cassandra Caldera, and Scott Houchin. So any one of those.
Who's the current vice chair?
I hear rumors, Scott. Maybe.
Yeah, Scott's retiring in September.
Scott retiring, so
I think.
something to keep in mind, but the current vice chair is Tina Nieto. And Tina probably will also be moving away from her position as well, so. And then actually, you can alternates have any nominations for chair, vice chair? I doubt it, yeah, okay.
Not unless they're represented.
Okay, just confirming. So, does anyone have a vice chair nomination at this time?
Chief Reyes. Are you interested? Would you be?
Yeah.
I'll nominate Chief Reyes as vice chair.
Can we get a second?
I'll say.
All right, we'll go to vote. Chief Reyes,
Abstain.
Bill Hiller.
Aye.
Aye.
And Jeff.
Aye.
All right, so moving forward, our new chairs are Will Hiller and Chief Reyes. Thank you guys very much, and we'll make sure that you're all set up for future meetings and kind of what that entails. Moving on from that, we have.
So agenda item B, the NEMSIS 3.5 update.
All right.
Jesse?
So you heard it from the expert at the last meeting, so just a quick recap. NEMSIS 3.4 is transitioning to 3.5. ESO is moving all of their customers at once on September 27th. So for those of you who are on ESO, they'll be emailing communications and also sending comms through their app at various intervals, 60, 30, and 2 weeks out, advising that they're switching over. And 3.4 will no longer be able to be accepted by the state after the end of this year. So if there's any questions, let me know, hit me offline, or I'll direct you to ESO if we're not sure.
So Jesse, this, I guess it almost looks like a PowerPoint, but in PDF format. So is this a supplement to, or is this the stuff that we're gonna see when they start doing their little training things?
That's what you're gonna see.
Okay.
That's different.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that what I had sent you?
Yeah, so what I'm curious is can we like package this in a deal and send it out to our paramedics?
Yeah.
Or just
that's-
wait till ESO gives us a little nuggets one at a time to do?
Well, I think that the agency could probably communicate to all stakeholders what the changes are.
Okay.
I'll get a few things from ESO to make sure that we're sending out accurate info, but as far as what you send your personnel, it's totally up to you.
Okay,
No, I think it makes sense for us to put together some information so that everybody has consistent access to the same information and that we're kind of establishing some uniform standards for the changes. And I think it's a good thing, like we discussed earlier, to incorporate into that data working group as well, potentially. Discuss some of those changes.
So more info on us, we'll formalize and
Okay.
organize some things, work on the Nexus transition.
So thank you, Jesse. Item C, combative patient and use of restraints. Please.
All right, we'll try to make this one also a little quick as well, since this was brought up. There's a little more of a discussion last meeting, but so this topic was to address recent concerns that have been brought up as our CQI tag meetings in regarding to aggressive patients and assaults on field providers. And as of right now, currently the EMS agency has attended meetings with AMR in staff town halls and during the mandatory training. We've gathered some input from the field providers, and we've drafted new language for our policies 4508 or patient restraint. And also we changed our M2, I believe M2 protocol when it comes to chemical sedation to help kind of better empower our field providers and make sure that they have all of that the protocols are written out to a way where they can interpret them and it empowers them. So, you know, they know that they have the tools that they need. Does anyone have any questions about that at this time? And before that, I'll also just state that by the end of the week, you should be able to see those changes to the policies here. And we will have a public comment section after that. So please be on the lookout. Anything, questions related to that?
I just wanted to thank the agency for joining us in the town halls, and being as open to our suggestions as you have been for this policy change. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And then I'll just move straight into the other piece. And unfortunately with this little hiccup we have here with our screen, I can't present it. I spent all yesterday making a beautiful PowerPoint. I even made the pictures match the tone and everything. But I'll give you a quick brief update on what the county is looking at potentially implementing is a high performance CPR model. And we brought this up during our CQI tags and some of our others, but this it's been a while since we've given this committee an update, and so we kind of wanted to express what we're looking at doing. And the vision of the plan is to increase patient outcomes when it comes to out of hospital cardiac arrest events. We use things like our CARES registry that allows us to monitor when a cardiac arrest happens outside of a hospital, when EMS arrives, when bystander intervention arrives, how many of these patients have return of spontaneous circulation. We find out neurological outcomes. Basically, you can find out if these patients are able to walk and out the hospital or they become convalescent. So we gather all this data, we look at it, and we view the quality of what our cardiac arrest outcomes are. So what we're doing is trying to improve that. And by implementing a high performance CPR model, some of the things we're going to be looking at and trainings will be establishing roles. We've already drafted some initial roles in a CPR scenario, what they're supposed to do, kind of the purpose of them, and how they kind of fit into the big picture. We've also, when it comes to further trainings, looking at minimizing pauses during compressions, assessing adequate depth in compressions, and also allowing for proper recoil. These are mostly training components when we look to implement this piece. Along with that, with a high performance CPR model, we are looking at adding 2 auxiliary components or tools for the high performance, and that is giving guidance on mechanical CPR devices. They're already implemented in the county. A lot of our agencies have them, but we took the time to kind of look at when these devices are best utilized, when they should be implemented. And we've drafted some guidelines for these devices and when they're supposed to be used and why they're being used. Oftentimes there's a lot of people who use these devices as these are a superior form of CPR, and that's not quite an accurate way to describe how these devices are used. They are a very consistent device, as in they give consistent compressions. They don't pause as frequently as maybe a person does, but they're also there to help with manpower. So that's one of the things we're looking at is explaining the purpose of these devices and how they work best. And then also a relatively new concept for the CPR toolkit is heads-up CPR. So what we're going to be looking at is how to potentially implement during a certain point in a cardiac arrest event when CPR is being performed, when to elevate the head of the patient to help with blood flow to the brain, which doesn't necessarily improve resuscitating the patient, but it helps with the neurological outcomes. So basically the goal is while it is good to bring as many patients back as possible, you want them to have a full life. You don't want them to be living in a nursing home and in a vegetative state. So the hope is to improve the quality of resuscitation that we get as well. So we've given some guidance on that. And currently what our next steps are after we've drafted all this is to collaborate with all of our allied agencies to help show what we've drafted and get their input and feedback and collaborate with what might be best practices, what will work in the field, what might not, what will be a challenge, and make sure we can collaborate on what we need to establish for training and education, and to hopefully ensure that this rollout becomes successful. After that, we'll be able to develop a timeline of when this program might be able to be implemented in the county. And outside of that, nothing else or at least nothing as of right now. Any questions on high performance CPR at this time?
So I know we were involved in the initial dialogue with Dr. Burley and AMR. So I know Rialto's doing they're elevating the head. And then, I know Rick is big on Dr. Antevi. Are we going to look at the Florida protocols that he enacted in his system as like at least a sample of maybe what we're going to move towards?
We absolutely can.
Okay.
During when we convene with all of our providers, we can absolutely bring that up and kind of highlight and see what has worked in other counties, what best practices, and learn from them.
Because the biggest piece to that success of his system is the dispatchers telling people start CPR, right? So there's that other component too, that the public outreach and that type of stuff. But
yeah, and the to give for those of you who haven't been present at some of these meetings, where the origins of this started, it comes from when Dr. Burley, Jesse, and myself attended a resuscitation academy back in September of last year at UC Davis. And it was basically a 3-day course on all of resuscitation, all aspects of resuscitation. And as you were telecommunicator CPR is one of those components that's helpful. I know that when it comes to telecommunicator CPR, there will be some challenges with that in the sense of our comms departments have strict guidelines And so our ability to tell them, hey, we need you to add this into it. They, you know, they have very strict guidelines. They can't really deviate from much. And at least in talking with AMR comms, I looking down the sheet and you know, the roles or what they're allowed to say, what they can't, because they get assessed by accreditation agencies. I think, correct me, is it ACE? Is it the ACE? I think it's accreditation agency for you guys. Yeah. So ACE has really strict guidelines, but we are looking into like the telecommuter part. We just have to figure out what we can do. So that's a very limiting factor for us. So, but any other questions at this time?
Might be a question for off cycle, but this, when we make changes to the protocol, how does that affect ACE? Like if Dr. Burley said we were going to add this in, does it take us out of ACE accreditation? Or the ability to
As of
use
right
it?
now, nothing that we're doing should take you out of ACE. So everything that has been worked around, at least because the ACE is just the dispatching part. So at this point, that's a harder challenge or a harder task to deal with. So we're addressing the low hanging fruit on what we can do. And so this is so far the easiest. So it'd be what we do in the field for field providers and how we deliver CPR. And then public education. Those will probably be the two biggest things we'll have to address when looking at this project. So outside, yeah. And then when it comes to protocols and policies, we're already looking at all the possible affected protocols, and we already have a list of what might be affected and how would it be affected. So we're anticipating that ahead of time, so that way, you know, everything mirrors each other, so that we don't have one protocol that says one thing and then, you know, then another protocol that has some conflicting information. So we're already kind of monitoring that.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? Not. I'll let you take over the last one.
All right, thank you, Blake. So announcements for the good of the order. Any member of the committee may make an announcement or comments. The ops may not discuss or take action on any item raised during the announcements, except to decide whether to place the matter on a subsequent agenda. Comments or items?
I'd just like to share somewhat of a win for us. We've been working with Olivia and Dawn from County Communications, and over the past better part of the year, have developed a process and implemented it 90 days ago now, where we have a simultaneous digital dispatch for our air ambulance resources based out of Salinas and Gilroy. So at the 90-day mark now, we've looked back, and we're in essence, what's happening is it takes one element of the activation communication chain out of the factor. And we've effectively reduced our liftoff times now of our aircraft by an average of 4 minutes. So whereas before we were doing estimated times to lift off around 12 minutes on average, we're now below that 10-minute mark at about 8 to 9 minutes. So, you know, I think that's substantial.
Any other announcements? So the next scheduled meeting is September 13th, 1 p.m. Zoom or
And yeah, committee members have to be in person. And there are certain guidelines where if you are a committee member and you can't attend for like personal family member, that has to be relayed to us, and we'll make sure that you qualify for those. But we just need a heads up for that. Outside of that,
thank you all so much.
thank you.